Okay, so today we're taking a deep dive into something, a topic that I think a lot of people probably don't want to think about too much.
It's not the most fun thing.
It's not the most fun, but it's something that, like, if you're married or have ever been married or might get married, you've probably thought about
You probably have.
divorce and everything that comes with it.
Yeah.
And today we're going to focus specifically on um, alimony, or as it's sometimes called, spousal support, and look into like kind of how it all works.
Yeah, why it's awarded, when it's awarded, how it's awarded.
Yeah, is it awarded in every
Huh?
case? And we'll get into all of that. And we've got a lot of good information here from a few different sources, including Cornell Law School, LegalZoom, and the American Bar Association. So we're gonna try to cover all of the basics and get into some interesting details and examples. Uh, so so let's just jump right in. Like I said, we're talking about alimony, also known as spousal support. And basically, it's financial support that one spouse might have to pay the other after a divorce.
Exactly.
And it's all about like making sure that both spouses can maintain a similar standard of living to what they were accustomed to during the marriage.
Right. Especially there's a big difference in their individual income.
Yeah.
One of the things that people get wrong right away is that they think that it's automatic. Like as soon as the couple splits, boom, alimony is awarded.
Right.
And it's not automatic. There's lots of factors that judges take into consideration before they even decide if it should be awarded.
Yeah. So let's talk about those factors. Like what are some of the things that judges are looking at when they're trying to decide if alimony is even necessary in a particular case?
I mean, definitely one of the big ones is how long the marriage lasted.
Okay.
So a shorter marriage, they might be less likely to award alimony than, say, like a 10-year marriage or a 20-year marriage.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
Like if you've only been married for 2 years,
exactly.
you haven't really like built this life together where one person has sacrificed their career
Exactly.
to benefit the other or that sort of thing.
Right. So they look at the length of the marriage. They also look at the financial circumstances of each person.
Okay.
What do they have in assets, savings, income?
Yeah,
And then one of the big ones is also the earning capacity of each spouse.
that makes sense.
So if one spouse is a brain surgeon and the other spouse has been at home raising the children, they're going to look at, well, how easy will it be for the stay-at-home spouse to get back into the workforce and start earning some money? Yeah.
Versus the brain surgeon who is already, making tons of money.
Right, right.
And so those are kind of the big overarching themes.
Yeah.
But then there are a lot of little factors that they can also take into consideration.
So just to kind of like recap what you were saying, it sounds like alimony is more likely to be awarded in cases where there's a significant difference in earning potential between the spouses,
Absolutely.
or in cases where one spouse has maybe put their career on hold to support the family,
Exactly.
or in cases where there's been a really long marriage and one spouse would be at a real disadvantage financially if they didn't receive some kind of support.
Right. Like, how easily can they become self-supporting?
Yeah.
Especially after a long marriage. If they haven't been working, that's really hard to do.
It's not just like, oh, well, you're on your own now. Good luck.
Right.
Figure it out.
Exactly. It's about fairness.
So speaking of fairness, is it true that alimony only goes to women?
That is definitely not true.
It's one of those myths that kind of hangs around,
Yeah.
based on maybe the way things used to be.
Yeah, right.
It's based on need and earning capacity, regardless of gender.
Okay.
So if the husband stayed at home and the wife was the one who, is a CEO of a company and they get divorced, he very well could be awarded alimony.
Interesting. So it really is about, like, who needs the support more than anything else.
Exactly.
Okay. So we've talked about, like, when it might be awarded and the factors that judges consider. But what about the actual, like, how much, how long, like, what are the different types of alimony?
Right. That's a whole other topic.
Right. So there's not just, like, one type of alimony.
No, and this can vary from state to state too.
Okay.
But generally there's temporary alimony. So while the divorce is going on, they might award temporary alimony.
If they help someone get by while the divorce proceedings are happening.
Exactly, exactly. And then there's rehabilitative alimony, which is, say, one spouse needs to go back to school to get retrained.
Okay.
So they might award alimony just for that period of time
Yeah.
until they get retrained and can support themselves.
So it's more of like a temporary boost.
Right. And then there is permanent alimony, but permanent alimony
Which is not necessarily forever.
Not necessarily forever. It can change. It can be modified,
Right.
if circumstances change.
Okay.
So if the person receiving alimony remarries, it's generally going to be terminated.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Or if their financial situation significantly improves,
Yeah.
or if the paying spouse has a significant, loss of income or whatever, they can go back to the court and say, hey, I can't afford this anymore.
Yeah, my circumstances have changed.
Exactly.
Interesting. So even when it's called permanent alimony, it's not like you're locked into a contract forever.
Right, right.
It can be revisited.
Exactly.
Okay. So how is alimony actually calculated? Like, is there like a set formula?
Yeah, that's a great question. Some states have guidelines, some states have formulas. Some states use what's called a percentage of income model.
Okay.
So they'll take a certain percentage of the higher earning spouse's income and give it to the lower earning spouse.
Okay.
Other states, they look more at like a fixed sum based on living expenses.
Okay.
So they look at, okay, how much does this person need to pay for housing, food, all their bills.
Yeah.
And then we're going to make sure that they have that much money.
Okay.
But a judge always has the right to kind of adjust these
Right.
based on the individual circumstance.
Because every case is different.
Exactly.
Right. And they're not just dealing with numbers on a spreadsheet.
Right.
They're dealing with people's lives.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Wow, this is a lot to take in.
Yeah.
So I guess the main takeaway here is that alimony is not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
Exactly.
It's super complex.
It's very complex.
And it really depends on the specifics of each individual case.
Right. But I think a good takeaway for the listeners is to remember that it's about fairness.
Fairness.
Yeah. It's about, trying to make sure that after a divorce, both people have the means to move forward with their lives.
Yeah. Because divorce is already hard enough.
It is.
Emotionally, financially,
Right.
On every level. So it's good that there's a system in place to try to, at least try to even things out a little bit.
It is. And a lot of people, like you said, don't like to think about it. But knowing your rights, knowing what's available can make it all go a little bit smoother.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Knowing your rights and obligations.
Exactly.
Whether you're the one have a clear picture of how things work.
Yeah, absolutely.
So listeners, here's a thought for you. If you were the judge in a divorce case, what factors would you weigh most heavily when deciding about alimony?
Interesting question to think about.
Yeah. It's not an easy job,
Not at all.
but it's an important one. So we'll leave you with that to ponder. And we'll be back soon with another deep dive on a completely different topic.
Until then.